is a song from Garden State by the Shins. Great movie. Natalie Portman's awesome. Awesome. I originally was going to do a video on Periscope, which is a live TV platform, and it's kind of next step in my evolution, which is crazy because I did a video like a year ago and talked about diet, health, and nutrition, and said I was going to start doing videos once a week. I think it took me so much to get that video up that I didn't do it again. And so rather than talk about, all the things that I'm passionate about, I think I need to talk about what I've been dealing with, which is a tremendous amount of fear and people pleasing, which is probably at the heart of this whole thing. I started working with a coach, a buddy of mine. I don't know what you would call him. Transformational coach, life coach, something like that. And over the last probably 8-9 months, I have been walking through doors that I never thought I would ever walk through, let alone pretty tremendous, scary stuff. So it's been an interesting process. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, like my fear and what I've dealt with and the people pleasing and all the aspects of that. Part of that was to get on tonight and do a live video on Periscope, in which I didn't do because I dropped my phone in the toilet a couple weeks ago, and now when I access the camera, it turns off. So I think unconsciously I knew this moment was coming, and I sabotaged it. So yeah, I don't know why I get nervous in front of the camera. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, like right now nobody's watching, it's just me. But that self-reflective consciousness creates all kinds of weird stuff inside of you. Fear, it creates fear. And fear is, it keeps you from expressing yourself, which you do every day. You express yourself to human beings every single day, all hours of the day. You don't ever once edit yourself. Well, I can't say that. Most people do edit themselves in a very extreme way, but you're not self-reflective about it. You don't think about it. Yeah, you're not in your head about it, like I am right now. So I think it's fascinating, though. And I think of all the fears that I've walked through, like, I'm trying to think of my first big ones. I know when I was younger, I was a military brat, so we moved a lot. Like, we were always on the go, and I used to tease my dad. I used to tease him that we were in like witness protection because we moved so much. But I got really good at meeting people. I got really good at quickly adapting to crowds and people, making friends quick because I didn't know how long I was going to be there. And so I learned kind of to put on a mask, like disguise myself just a little bit. Nothing extreme, just a little bit in order to fit in with a group. And I know a lot of people do this. I know I'm not the only one that does this, but it seems real subtle at first, and it's not a big deal. And then I got rewarded for it because people liked me, so I get rewarded. So I'm like, okay, that's a good thing. So I do it all the time, and I get used to it. And that's how I've done my whole adult life. So I think I got over that fear fairly early about not being accepted and not being liked and all that. And I created kind of a false facade to deal with that, or to let not people. The thought process is if people knew the real me, they wouldn't like me, which is ridiculous, but it's still in my brain somewhat true, as you can see right there in the thought process. So the next time that I had any real fear was I was transferred in 7th grade on, they call it a minority to majority transfer, which means there's too much of one race at a school, so they're going to try and integrate it. So I went to a school called Linwood in Shreveport, my 7th grade, which was predominantly black, probably 90%. And I was short and fat, and I had long hair. Kind of looked like a girl, so like I got a tremendous amount of shit. I got picked on a lot, and I just was always used to being able to kind of skirt my way around that, and make friends, and kind of stay out of the way of people that would actually do that. But there, I just got it from all angles, and it was hard. Like I got beat up. The first time I got beat up, well, no, because that was after the shit. So what happened was, I used to go home and cry in 7th grade. You know, that's horrific 7th grade to get picked on every day after school or at school. And went home and my dad said, you know, if you don't deal with it, it's always going to happen. It's always going to be there. You know, people are going to walk on you forever. So I think I took that advice to heart, and I knew there was nobody that was going to save me but myself. And so it's funny because I dealt with it in what I would consider a negative way, but I fought back. That's what I fought back, like fist fight, fought back, and got my ass kicked a lot. I got beat up quite a bit. I think the first time I fought back, I got beat up by a girl, because I was tiny and puny and had no aggression. You know, it was the first time I'd ever even played in that area. So it was this girl. She walked by. She took the pencil off my desk, and I remember it clear as day. And I was like, "Hey, that's my pencil." And she was like, "What you gonna do about it?" And I was like, "Bitch, give me my pencil." She hit me in the mouth, and so I did. So I fought back, and I got beat up pretty bad. Well, not bad, but. And there, I don't know why, but they never suspended anybody. I must have gone to the office 15 times for fighting, and there was never any suspensions, never. And I got beat up. The worst one was I got beat up in the locker room by 3 guys, and 2 of them held me, and the other guy like kicked me against the lockers. It was those old school lockers with the dials, the knobs, and I remember hitting the knobs several times. And I took a couple punches to the face and the gut and went down, and it was extreme. Like you didn't go like I didn't go to the principal because that would make it worse, you know. So I just started fighting back, and I wasn't very good at it. I remember one of the guys that had originally held me against the locker, I like cheap shot at him. I like ran up and grabbed his head and started slamming it in the locker, and he beat me up after that. It was just a lot of like, I got to where I wouldn't, if there was aggression involved, if somebody was coming at me, I wouldn't even say anything. I would just start swinging. And so, yeah, I think I broke through the fear of, you know, ridicule and getting beaten up then, but it wasn't like I didn't get through the fear of, you know, these people don't like me, and that's okay. You know, I don't have to be liked. And so that year, thank God, I moved on to another school the next year, and it was a rough year. And so then, of course, I went back to, you know, the way that I used to be, only with a twist. I started taking martial arts and boxing, you know, doing all these crazy things because I never wanted to be put in that position again. So I went into like an aggressive mode, and I was that way for a long time. And my friend Warren, he was one of the ones that pointed. I used to get in fights a lot, like fist fights. I would like draw it to myself. I was constantly getting in fist fights, and I'd seen through it a couple times where I was doing it. And basically, what it was I was aggressive in nature as a defense mechanism, and so people would see that, and if they had any kind of the same energy field, it would boom. Kind of like, what are you looking at? Boom! It would blow up into fights, you know? And so I dealt with that a lot. I dealt with that a long time ago. And that was actually a really cool, one of the coaching calls I did with Warren a long time ago. But we walked through, you know, he asked me, he said, and that's the thing, the truth. The whole thing about this fear thing is the truth. Like deep down inside you, there's a truth wanting to be expressed. And a lot of times our fear is not Yeah, I have fear of heights. I don't like heights that much. We went on a ride at Six Flags, and I was terrified, and I thought I was going to die, and that's not fun. I'm not really fond of sharks, but you know, my daughter's home. Um, if I had to, I'd get in the water with him. But one of the other things that I think is fascinating is the fear of like public speaking dwarfs the fear of my height. And the fear of height is revolved around death because I don't want to fall and die. But the fear of public speaking is the fear of what other people are going to think of me. And that's insane to me. But I'm still affected by it. Whereas I think many are, that's what they say, that public speaking is higher on the food chain as far as fear than dying. So people are more afraid of public speaking than dying. So why? What is it? Like I said, we express ourselves every day, 1,000 times a day. You don't think anything about it. You just express yourself. But that camera or being up on stage or being in front of people changes that, and you worry, you fear what other people are going to think. Am I going to make a mistake? Am I going to be stupid? So you put on a mask of some sort to try and cover that up. Most of us are using our mask, and other people see the mask and they're like, oh yeah, it's permission. So it's like, ever met somebody that really speaks their mind? Like, that's admirable. People are really drawn to that. Like people, strong women like Queen Latifah or Dolly Parton, like that really have that strong, and they just speak whatever's up. That's really admirable. I think because part of us wants to do that, but we're not willing to walk through the fear to do it. So fast forward, after I dealt with that, so he said, my coach, Oren, said, do you like to fight? And I was like, I didn't want to tell the truth, so I was like, no, of course I don't. And he's like, okay, so what did we say? We're going to be honest, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm being honest. He's like, Travis, do you like to fight? And I was like, I really thought about it. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, why? I said, because it's the ultimate trump card. Like, I've learned, I went through all this crazy training to be able to beat ass. And it's the ultimate trump card. Like, if you don't agree with me, or you look at me funny, or you don't like me, I can beat you up and I win. Like, this. And he's like, is that true? He's like, if we have a disagreement, is that true? Like, did you change my mind by beating me up? Did you change my stance? I mean, just like, think about that for a second. If we get in an argument and we're arguing about something, a point, let's just say it's an opinion, let's say it's politics, because for some reason that's always, so we're arguing politics, and it heats to the point where we're trying to win. It goes to actual blows, and I beat you up, or you beat the other person up. Did you change their mind? Of course not. If anything, you cemented that belief stronger, and they had to fight, come up with new reasons to like back up their point, or you cement it stronger. So after that awareness came through, and I saw that, I did not draw on near as much. On occasion it would come through, but I didn't draw it. Like, I mean, we're talking, I would draw it once every 2-3 months. Like, I would have like a yelling match, or I got really good at like screaming and getting crazy, and people didn't want any of that, so the fist fights were a little more rare. But like, I was drawing that to myself, and once I had awareness about it, it went away. Like, completely went away. So fast forward a couple years, long years, and I did some stand-in work for Jean-Claude Van Damme. When I'm a paramedic for a local company here in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, called CareFlight. And I just thought about, like, that's how the mind works. I was just thinking about, I'm gonna have to put this up on YouTube, and it's gonna link to Facebook, and all these people are gonna watch it, and I'm gonna look like an idiot. But it's fun. That's how, your shit works. Um, so anyway, I did stand-in work for Jean-Claude Van Damme, had a blast, and I decided I was going to go be an actor. I'd never had any inclination to be an actor, but I went to Los Angeles. I moved to Los Angeles, started chasing that dream, and I did that for like 8 or 10 years with, some success here and there. I was in a movie called Jeepers Creepers 2. I did a commercial. I did some theater. But out of the thousands of auditions, thousands, I promise there were thousands of auditions, and then the time up on stage during acting classes and theaters, and it was a rare occasion that I wasn't in this self-reflective state that I'm in now, like that self-consciousness. It was rare, and during those times, it was amazing. At the time that you weren't in your head, you weren't thinking about it. It seemed easier because you were pretending to be somebody else, but it was just the magic moment. And so you chase the high in those magic moments where everything just flows and you feel amazing and like everything just works. And you're not nervous. And it didn't make any rhyme or reason why some auditions I'd be nervous and the other ones I wouldn't be. I couldn't put anything behind it. And so I left after Jeepers. I had a little girl, and me and my wife moved to Texas because we decided that that wasn't the right environment to raise a little girl, and the chances of me booking another movie were probably pretty slim. And so therein started a little bit of a issue. That was 16 years ago. And my wife is super, super private, so I'll leave out a lot of the details because she wouldn't appreciate me sharing her stuff to a public eye like this. But I didn't communicate. First of all, I had a horrible role model for relationships, I mean, my childhood, which most people's, their mom, dad's like a train wreck. I mean, that's the majority. I mean, divorce rates like 40% or something ridiculous. And then you ask people that have been married, you see how they're like, oh, God, like that energy of, oh. I transported a patient the other day, and I was like, oh, you just had a birthday. She was quite a bit older. And she's like, yeah, I just had my 60th wedding anniversary. And I was like, oh, my God, that's awesome. And she was like, yeah, I hate him. But, at least we made it 60 years. Or it was 40 years, I think. And I was just like, God, like, that's not what I want. That's not the paradigm that I want my relationship to make. And I think 17 years ago when I started down that road, I wasn't honest. And I was through the mask. I was speaking a little bit through the mask. And you repress part of who you are, regardless of where you do it at. Do you do it in a relationship? Do you do it at work? Do you do it when you're just, and you have this almost feeling in you that something's kind of missing? And for me, that's what kept coming up. And I just felt like, and I repressed it to the degree that fast forward 17 years later, these are heated stuff that's really not that big a deal, is a heated thing, causing all these fights and flare-ups and constant craziness in our relationship. And it was, fantastic one moment, and, nuclear bombs the next. And part of it was, so anyway, so a year ago, I went and I ended up taking care of my dad, who died of cancer. So I went up north, took care of him, and then came back. And I gained quite a bit of weight during that whole period and didn't take it off. That was right about a year ago. And about 8 months in, I started doing coaching with my buddy Orrin. And there was, like, out of all the little breakthroughs I had, like, this would be a little breakthrough for me. Like, getting on here, doing a video, it's a little scary. I had to do a meeting the other day for work, and I had to talk even though everybody wasn't looking at me. I was still a little nervous. These are little breakthroughs. And my freedom, I think, will be partially my communicated message without being self-reflective, because that's where the fun is. Like, just like people, they perform up on stage when they're not in their head, they're having a blast. They're going through all this stuff. It's incredible. I know I've done it. Like when I did the movie. Those moments where you tune the world out and these moments become real moments for you. Like that self-reflective thing is gone, and you just enjoy that moment. And because you are having a blast and enjoying it, then everybody else is having a blast and enjoying it. They're feeling whatever you're feeling. And then the same goes true if you get up on stage and you're nervous. Everybody's nervous for you, and everybody's like, "Oh God, get up off the stage, man!" Nobody wants to see that, because that's that self-reflective thing, that empathy. People are like, "Oh." So, and I apologize. It's clunky and it's messy, and I didn't write it. I'm just coming up off the top of my head with all this stuff. But so basically, it was a lot of repression, and it was causing a lot of problems. And part of my work was involving the fear of communicating that stuff to my loved one. And I've done a lot of stuff that was hard. First time I got up on stage to act was hard, but that was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Because you put up that mask with her, you or your loved one. Even if it's just slight, most of us wear a little bit of a mask, and for fear of that person. Perfect example: when you first go out on a date, you don't tell them, "Hey man, I got stinky feet, and I got 17 dogs at the house." You don't say that shit because you're trying to get them to like you. So that's it. You're trying to get them to like you, so you have this little bit of a mask. Some people's way stronger, and other people reflect off that mask, and they see it. They're like, "Oh hell no!" Like, even sometimes if you tell somebody the truth, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm not going there," and they refuse to tell you. So I walked through that door, and like I said, it was the hardest thing probably I've ever had to do. That's got to be up there. And my fear of that was so distorted that it made it this monster, this huge, monstrous thing that it really wasn't. And afterwards, things got better. Things started growing again. Our relationship actually started growing again. And I really don't want to say this much about her because she's so private. But anyway, our relationship has grown into this amazing thing. So part of my passion and where I drive at now is health and nutrition. I love nutrition. I have a lot of information about how to help people with heart disease and cancer and diabetes and all this stuff that I see as a paramedic. I see consistently every day. It's not trauma that kills people. It's heart disease. It's cancer. It's type 2 diabetes. And I see the link between all of it. Well, part of my expression has been bottled up. And I noticed it as energy. And it's funny, like if you know how chakras work, which I could just explain it like I felt blocked down below, and that was my root chakra. Like I felt like I was going to die. And then you move up into your heart, and then there's all that to unblock. And I unblocked that, and now I'm stuck right here. And part of this is expression. Being willing to put yourself out there and express yourself in a way that's probably, like I said, it's probably the most terrifying for just about everybody. Because you always think, like, I'm going to turn the video off and be like, "Oh my God, that was retarded. What were you doing? What were you thinking?" Like that, you're so destructive on yourself. You just hammer down. And regardless, other people's opinions of us is none of our business, but we make it that way. And so part of this video was for that. It was for me to step through that door and go back to expressing myself again. And I know a lot of people, they know my history with acting and stuff, and they're like, "How could you be nervous?" And I'm like, I don't know. And I didn't know for a long time. But if you look at how much we wear our masks and we people please, and it may come in little tiny lies, like, "Oh, do you like my dress?" I'm not saying you have to be mean, but these little things Or somebody said, do you like my dress? And you say yes, but it bothers you. They ask you all the time, but you can't say that. I couldn't say that. Why? Because of fear what the other person will think. And so then whatever you're pretending, they're pretending on the same side. So when you go into the truth, and I read a book I really recommend, it's called Radical Honesty. And it is probably, it's amazing. And it's written by a psychotherapist that talks about that. Like expressing yourself in the moment, like I'm doing here. Like I'm nervous. I'm not as nervous as when I started, but I still have a little bit of that self-reflective thing. I'm looking forward one day when that's gone, but expressing like that kind of stuff in the moment when you're uncomfortable with somebody, or they're, whatever, I don't know, irritating you, and you speak up and say, you know what, I want to be alone, you're taking the shit out of me, or whatever. It doesn't always have to be mean, but like that truth that you're hiding is robbing part of yourself, because you're telling yourself whatever's coming up for you and you're wanting to express, whatever it is in your life, it's important. It's important. You know, regardless of what, why, when, how, if it's coming up for you, you need to express it. In not doing so, you're telling yourself that you're not okay. That's not okay. You're judging yourself in a very harsh way. You know, whatever it is that's coming up for you, you know, it's part of your expression of who you are. We're all unique. We're all here to express our gifts in different ways. You know, some people, their passion is money. They want to make money. They love to make money. And if they buy into any of these fear traps, they won't do it. And the people that really have gone forward and we look at as uber talented, the rich, you know, that's why Trump is dominating right now. And it's not because I completely agree with Trump, but all of us, I'm pretty sure, can look at that and say, wow, he is not a politician. He's not lying. He's saying what's on his mind, no matter how distorted and screwed up. And I think a lot of people, and he may win just based on, it's refreshing for people. After all that was said, I asked the missus, would you rather I didn't tell you? Of course not. Because we want to hear the truth. And in tearing off the mask and all the fear of everybody's going to see me in this craziness, when you tear that mask off, you inspire people to tear their mask off too. Not everyone's willing to go there, but you won't believe the jump in energy. And when you get all the energy back from all that compartmentalized crap, those thoughts, those beliefs, you start walking through those fears. You know, and I'm still walking through mine. You know, it's like I have a little fear. I make myself go do it. That's my that's my ambition, is to do that. You know, and that's what this video is about. Fear of doing it. So now I have to do it. And I have to continue to do it until either the fear's gone or I just die. I don't know. So that was cool. That was fun. It would have been more interesting on Periscope, I think, just because it's a live broadcast. It'd probably been a lot. See, I got to start about 5 of these and then go back and erase them so nobody saw them. So this was the last of the 5. So, yeah. And I see it, now I've seen it. Because I walked through that door, I see other people in not even intimate relationships, especially in intimate relationships, but all relationships. I can see when people don't express what's on their mind or on their heart. So, go do it. If you feel so inclined, you won't be disappointed. It's the freaking scariest thing you'll ever do, but man, underneath all of that fear is you wanting to come out, wanting to birth to the world whatever your gifts are.